What if the most terrifying thing in football isn't a goal, but the moment you realize you've already lost? Philipp Lahm, one of the smartest defenders football has ever produced, once broke his silence with a sentence that left many stunned. Ronaldo wins with pressure. Messi wins before you even look. Think about that for a second. How can a player defeat you before the duel begins? Why do defenders say, Ronaldo exhausts your body, but Messi destroys your certainty? In this video, we'll uncover what Lahm really meant, why this confession matters more than statistics, and how it changes the way we understand greatness in modern football. Stay with me. This goes deeper than goals. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because what you're about to hear is not the usual Messi versus Ronaldo debate. Philipp Lahm was never the loudest voice in football. He didn't intimidate with size, didn't dominate with aggression, and rarely relied on spectacle. His power came from something else: anticipation. Reading the game 2 seconds before everyone else, standing in the right place before danger even appeared. That is exactly why his words about Messi and Ronaldo carry such weight. Lahm faced an era where football was redefined by two extremes. On one side, Cristiano Ronaldo, seasons of 50 or even 60 goals, a forward who turns every match into a physical and mental siege. Every cross feels lethal. Every second ball feels dangerous. You defend him for 89 minutes, and he still punishes you in the 90th. On the other side, Lionel Messi, even at 38 years old, still topping charts with around 70 goal contributions in a season. But numbers alone never explain the fear he creates. Because with Messi, defenders don't just lose duels, they lose structure, shape, certainty. Lahm didn't speak as a fan. He spoke as a defender who lived inside systems, pressing traps, defensive lines, coordinated movements, and he noticed something unsettling. Against Ronaldo, you suffer physically. Against Messi, you suffer intellectually. So the question isn't who scored more. The real question is this: why do elite defenders say the game feels lost earlier when Messi is on the pitch? That question leads us directly to the moment Lahm finally explained what no statistic can measure. Philipp Lahm didn't make that statement in the heat of a rivalry or to fuel a debate. It came later, after titles were won, after careers were sealed, when reflection replaces adrenaline. He was asked a simple question: what is the real difference between defending against Messi and defending against Ronaldo? At first, Lahm hesitated. Because for defenders like him, football is built on logic. Lines, angles, distances. You are trained to believe that if you follow the system perfectly, danger can be controlled. But then he admitted something deeply uncomfortable. Against Ronaldo, everything makes sense. You feel the threat growing. You feel the pressure increasing. You know the danger is coming, and your body prepares for it. You jump. You sprint. You collide. You suffer. But you understand why. Against Messi, that logic collapses. Lahm described moments where nothing seemed wrong. The defensive line was set. The spacing was correct. The press was synchronized. And yet, suddenly, the ball was gone. The pass had already been played. The chance had already been created. Not because Messi was faster, not because he was stronger, but because he had already read the situation before the defender even adjusted his stance. That was the moment Lahm realized something terrifying. Sometimes, the duel is decided before the defender becomes aware that a duel exists at all. And once you understand that, football stops feeling fair. When Philipp Lahm said, "Ronaldo wins with pressure," Messi wins before you even look. He wasn't being poetic. He was being precise. Ronaldo's dominance is visible. It builds in layers. Every sprint, every jump, every shot adds weight. Defenders feel it in their lungs, in their legs, in the constant awareness that one mistake will be punished. You track him. You mark him. You fight him. The battle is exhausting, but it is recognizable. Messi is different. With Messi, the danger doesn't announce itself. There is no warning siren, no gradual escalation. 1 second, the situation feels neutral. The next, it is irreversibly broken. Lahm explained that Messi doesn't wait for defenders to react. He waits for them to think. And in football, thinking is already too slow. While defenders scan the field, Messi scans the defenders. He registers body orientation, weight distribution, eye movement. He notices who is half a step late, who is mentally occupied, who believes the system will protect them. That's where the match is lost. Because by the time the defender looks, adjusts his feet, turns his head, commits to a decision, Messi has already chosen the solution. The pass is played. The dribble has begun. The structure is compromised. This is why defenders often describe Messi not as unstoppable, but as inevitable. You don't feel beaten in the tackle. You feel beaten in understanding, and that is far more unsettling. Because how do you defend against something that happens before your reaction exists? Football history has known many geniuses, players who could dribble, pass, or score in impossible ways. But Lahm's point goes further than individual brilliance. Messi doesn't just beat a man. He beats the idea of control. Modern football is obsessed with systems, compact blocks, triggers, pressing zones. Coaches design defensive mechanisms believing that if every player moves correctly, the system will survive any individual. Messi exposes the flaw in that belief, because systems are built on assumptions that the ball will travel at a certain speed, that the opponent will need a touch to control it, that space will appear after movement. Messi inverts all of that. He doesn't wait for space to open. He creates it by forcing defenders to hesitate for a fraction of a second. And that fraction is enough to make the entire structure shift. One step too far, one lane suddenly open, one passing angle that shouldn't exist. Lahm compared this effect to a chain reaction. One defender adjusts his body, another compensates, a third steps out to cover. And suddenly, the system that looked perfect 5 seconds earlier is disfigured. This is why coaches often say, "We defended well until Messi touched the ball." Not because the plan was wrong, but because the plan assumed time. And Messi operates where time does not exist. Ronaldo forces teams to endure. Messi forces them to rethink reality itself. That is why, even in an era of data, video analysis, and tactical obsession, Messi continues to generate moments no system can fully predict. Here is where Philipp Lahm's reflection becomes almost unsettling. Modern football believes in data, heat maps, passing lanes, expected goals. Every movement is measured, categorized, predicted. Teams prepare for weeks using footage, patterns, repetitions. And yet, when Lahm speaks about Messi, he speaks about something data cannot touch. Because Messi does not repeat situations, he recognizes them. Defenders are trained to respond to familiar triggers. A winger receives wide. A striker drops between lines. A full-back overlaps. These are patterns you can prepare for. Messi breaks that logic. He doesn't follow the pattern. He waits for the defender to assume the pattern exists. The moment the defender believes he knows what comes next, Messi chooses the opposite. Lahm explained that this is why pre-match preparation against Messi often feels useless. You don't fail because you didn't study enough. You fail because the situation you studied never actually happens. This is where Ronaldo and Messi separate again. Ronaldo challenges the limits of preparation. Messi exposes the illusion of preparation. Against Ronaldo, you say, "We must defend better." Against Messi, you ask, "What is better supposed to mean?" And that question haunts defenders, because football systems are designed to reduce chaos. Messi thrives inside it. He doesn't need freedom. He creates it in the smallest possible spaces, inside the tightest structures, under the heaviest pressure. That is why Lahm didn't describe Messi as unpredictable. He described him as unavoidable. And avoidance, in football, is often the last thing you have left. This is the part defenders almost never say out loud. Because physical fear is acceptable in football, mental fear is not. When you face Ronaldo, the fear is clear and almost honest. You know you will be tested. You know your body will be pushed to its limit. You prepare yourself for contact, for aerial duels, for sprints that burn your legs. If you lose, you can tell yourself, he was stronger, faster, more powerful. But Messi creates a quieter fear, one that attacks confidence itself. Lahm hinted at this without dramatizing it. Defenders begin to doubt their instincts. They hesitate not because they are slow, but because they are unsure. Should I step out or hold the line? Should I close the angle or protect the pass? With Messi, the correct decision is often the wrong one, and once doubt enters, everything follows. Your first step is half a second late. Your body angle is slightly wrong. Your communication with teammates becomes reactive instead of proactive. This is why defenders say Messi makes them feel exposed, even when they are not. The system is there. The teammates are there. And yet, the sense of control disappears. It's not panic, it's disorientation. That psychological erosion is devastating over 90 minutes. Because you don't just defend actions, you defend possibilities. And Messi multiplies those possibilities until the defender's mind is overloaded. In that state, even a simple touch feels dangerous. And that is the kind of fear no statistic will ever record. This is the part Philipp Lahm never stated directly. But everything he said leads here. Time. Football is ruthless with age. Muscles slow down. Recovery takes longer. Explosiveness fades. And for most players, decline is brutal and visible. Cristiano Ronaldo fought time head-on. He reshaped his body, his diet, his game. He turned himself into a specialist. Fewer touches, sharper movements, maximum efficiency in the box. Even as his role narrowed, his output remained extraordinary. That alone is historic. But Messi's relationship with time is different. Because his game was never built on speed, or strength, or repetition. It was built on perception. Lahm understood this better than most defenders. He knew that anticipation does not age the same way physical dominance does. If anything, it sharpens. Experience adds layers. The ability to recognize danger earlier compensates for what the legs no longer give. That's why, at 36, 37, even 38, Messi doesn't look like a player surviving on memories. He looks like a player choosing his moments more carefully and hurting teams just as deeply. Ronaldo beats defenders by arriving first. Messi beats them by arriving earlier, mentally. And that distinction explains why defenders say Messi feels just as dangerous late in his career. Because the fear he creates isn't about being outrun or overpowered. It's about being outthought. You can adapt your body to time. You cannot train yourself to think faster than someone who already sees the solution. That is why Lahm's confession resonates beyond rivalry. It's not about who lasted longer. It's about whose game was never truly at war with time. Philipp Lahm didn't choose a winner. He revealed something far more uncomfortable. Ronaldo dominates the body. Messi dominates the mind. One exhausts you until you break. The other makes you question whether you were ever in control at all. And maybe that is the real divide in this rivalry. Not goals, not trophies, but how defeat feels when it arrives. Now it's your turn. Do you fear relentless pressure or silent inevitability? If this video made you see football differently, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your opinion in the comments. Because the debate doesn't end here. And here is the detail that lingers long after Lahm's words. Football keeps evolving. Faster presses, smarter data, more control. Yet the same confession keeps resurfacing from defenders, coaches, goalkeepers, across leagues, across generations. If the game is more organized than ever, why does one player still make it feel uncontrollable? Maybe the most frightening thing about Messi isn't what he does with the ball. It's what he does to certainty itself. Systems can be improved. Athleticism can be matched. But anticipation, vision, the ability to arrive before the question is even asked, that remains untouchable. And perhaps that is why this debate never truly ends. Philipp Lahm didn't end the Messi-Ronaldo debate. He reframed it. One represents relentless pressure, visible, measurable, undeniable. The other represents silent control, subtle, invasive, irreversible. Ronaldo breaks you by force. Messi breaks you by understanding. And perhaps that's why this rivalry has lasted so long. Because it isn't just about football. It's about two ways of winning, two ways of dominating, two ways of making opponents feel small. So now the question comes back to you. Would you rather lose because you were overwhelmed? Or because you never even saw it coming? If this video gave you a new perspective, like it, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which fear you'd choose, and why. Because as long as football exists, this conversation will never truly end.